Kongversation.
I'm riding on the back of Richard Dreyfussy, my new shark animal buddy. Next up, E3 2017 coverage.
Hello and welcome to the Kongversation E3 2017 preview. With me is my partner in crime in Los Angeles for the next week, the one, the only Cameron Reigle. How you doing, Cameron?
Very fine, Hyle. Yourself?
How's the stress treating you?
Well, say it feels like I'm kind of like vibrating at like a negligible frequency.
Mm-hmm.
But
So like the Flash, you're going to start vibrating through walls and maybe eventually go into the Speed Force.
yeah, just hope there aren't any red skies in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Well, with the smog, I have bad news for you, Cameron. They're all red skies. Yeah, so we are going to be flying out to the City of Angels, or the City of Demons, as Helmas is insisting we call it, on Saturday. So when this episode goes up for the general audiences, we might already even be out in LA. And we are going to be staying, of course, at the DK Vine Party House, which is going to be our home away from the LA Convention Center, where we'll be targeting all of the Donkey Kong and Rare Shared Universe news at the show. Now, I went on my bear hike. We're recording this Thursday night. I went on my annual E3 bear hike this morning. Did not see a bear, Cameron, and I felt really bad. I even stayed longer in the mountains than I normally do, trying to find a bear. And I was trying to track them. I was looking for bear scat. I was looking for places in the grass where they would, lie down. No sign whatsoever of any bears. Yeah. So that might be a bad omen, but luckily Rare has already kind of bailed us out in that we know Sea of Thieves is at the show, and there's supposed to be a substantial leap forward with Sea of Thieves, which we'll get into that in the actual preview itself. But this E3 is not going to be a total wash, even if Nintendo doesn't give us any goods yet again. I want people to be excited for Sea of Thieves, and it's going to be something we get into this episode, just why some people are fanatical about Sea of Thieves and why some people just don't seem to care. And there's a very good reason for that, and we'll be addressing that. But before we do that, I want to get to some very quick due diligence, because this is the time of year for due diligence, because, well, you want to be hooked up, right? dkvine.com/forum. Check it out. There is never a better time to join than E3. And E3 2017 discussion is now live. So that will be your central discussion hub for all E3 news, events, and whatever shenanigans we get up to. Check it out, dkvine.com/forum. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. We will be posting updates on both throughout the whole duration of E3. And also subscribe to us on YouTube, because our YouTube channel will be bustling as well. As far as the Kongversation goes, feel free to drop a line at any time. 1-202-630-VINE. That's the new number for the DK Vine hotline. 1-202-630-8463. And if you have any thoughts about what you see during E3, call us right away, and we'll get to it eventually. What else? Hashtag bring back the spiders, of course, and get Fabio on the Kongversation. So if you know Fabio, please reach out to him. All right, due diligence is out of the way. Let's get to it, Cameron. Oh my God. All right, so E3 is here, and unlike a lot of E3s in the past, we're already kind of set up. I mean, we know we're going to be getting a huge game, and granted, it's a game we've only, we've seen. This is going to be the third year in a row it's made some sort of appearance at E3. The first year, it was just the announcement and the trailer and the debut of Captain Bones, but nothing really else. The second year was a lot more substantial. It was kind of the coming out party. People played it for the first time. Chad and I were on the trailer. That was cool. But this year is the third appearance of Sea of Thieves. And I can understand some people are not that excited about it because it's not a new announcement, which is, the big thrill of E3 is new game announcements, big surprises, reveals. So we don't have that, but Rare is promising a build unlike we've seen before for Sea of Thieves. Something, I think, closer to the final product. And now, Cameron, I don't think we're stepping in any shit here when I say we're both in the technical alpha. And we can't talk about what's in a technical alpha, but we can at least confirm, hey, yeah, we're both in a technical alpha. So, for one thing, as far as from our perspective goes, it'll be nice to have a lot of stuff aired out in the open so we can actually talk about it here on the Kongversation.
Yeah. When you mentioned we're going to talk about Sea of Thieves and address why things have kind of been quiet, and I'm thinking, can we?
Well, this is the problem with Sea of Thieves, and I see people on the DK Vine forum commenting on it. Helmos made the Sea of Thieves E3 2017 discussion thread last night, and he pinned it to the top, and there's, naysayers in there. It's like, oh, I just don't care about Sea of Thieves. I care more about Super Mario Odyssey than I do about Sea of Thieves. And, yeah, there is this weird enthusiasm divide. And honestly, it's people who are in the technical alpha think Sea of Thieves is one of the greatest games of all time. And that's not hyperbole. That is, basically pretty much everybody in the inner circle who's in the technical alpha. And I should say there's no correlation between being in the inner circle and being in the technical alpha. It's just... they're letting in thousands of gamers at a time.
It was just the serendipitousness of a lot of people in our same friend circles happen to join the insider program and get in around the same time, because it's not really, if you're in the program, it's not really a well-kept secret. People see it on your Xbox homepage.
Yeah. We were really worried about it initially when it first went live, because I've never been part of any, they used to call them betas, but I guess they're technical alphas now. I've never been a part of anyone, so I
think a beta is a later stage in this particular case. Okay. I think we're just not used to seeing alphas really in the light like this.
Well, maybe after E3, it will become the technical beta. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, I never been a part of anything like this, so I wanted to be careful, obviously. And I know you feel the same way, Cameron. You got in a little bit later than I did. But, there's no, quid pro quo going on there with the Inner Circle and Sea of Thieves. I just want to clarify. But
no, I think we've all been more nervous than we have to be about violating the terms of the NDA, just not only from a legal standpoint, but because, look, we're fans of these guys. They've done a lot for us. We're not going to deflate their balloon.
Well, it's so hard, too, because we're a Rare fan site. We're one of the biggest Rare fan sites. And it's so hard not to talk about the biggest game. I mean, quite honestly, this is the most revolutionary game Rare's made since GoldenEye. And I'm not, again, not hyperbole. This is a fundamental fact you'll understand when you play the game. There's really been nothing like this. And it's phenomenal, and I'm dying to talk about it. And at the very least, this E3 will afford us the opportunity to talk more about it than we've been able to. But I really think this divide of the enthusiasm gap is all down to you have to play the game to believe in Sea of Thieves. I mean, unless you're a hardcore Rare fanatic and you saw the promise in the trailer back in E3 2015. But, unfortunately, there's too many cynical people in the world. I complained about this on the last episode of the Kongversation, and I've kind of grown out of cynicism. Even in the world we live in, Cameron, I've grown out of cynicism. And I immediately, Sea of Thieves. Yeah, it wasn't Banjo 3 like we kind of thought going into it, but it's a Greg Mayles pirate game. Or Greg Mayles influence designed pirate game. I don't want to take away from all the other people working on the game, including Joe Neitz and I'm not going to go down the list here, but it's basically the promise of this has existed since DKC2. So, yeah, I mean, if you weren't excited about that, then basically it required you to play the game to understand it. And we've had thousands of people now playing the game in the technical alpha, and I think everybody gets it who's played it. But I'm hoping what Sea of Thieves does this year, and I don't have any inside scoop as far as what the trailer is, so I doubt I'm going to be in it this year, Cameron. Unless they've repurposed my face Grand Moff Tarkin style, which I'm fine with, by the way, Rare. If you want to disgrace my legacy, you have my full permission. But
please, Rare, make liberal use of sentence mixing of Hyle for this.
I can tell a whole bunch of people to shut up now. But I don't know what the trailer is going to be. I don't know what they're showing off. But I have a feeling, based on the hints on Twitter, that it's going to be a far more robust, polished build closer to the final vision of the game. And it's been fun watching Sea of Thieves grow. And again, we can't really speak much upon this, either from the time I was at Rare playing it or the technical alpha. I'm under so many NDAs right now, Cameron.
And I guess it's hard to keep track of because it's sort of this overlapping. For you, I imagine it's this. Can I talk about things that have been publicly revealed, but that I have experienced firsthand? Because even though they're already out there, it's this whole kind of tight shoelace of secrecy.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm out of line saying I was privy to some things that haven't been revealed, and so, but I have to keep all that straight in my head, and I really need to create some sort of flow chart just to help me at this point.
I'm just listening for the sirens in the distance.
Yeah, whenever Chad was on the show and outside of his Brooklyn apartment, you would always hear the sirens, and it's just oh yeah, they're coming for you, Chad.
And I do want to clarify, I mean some form of law enforcement sirens and not nautical sirens. See, I had to do it again.
Yeah, there
I don't know if any sirens are in the game.
Of course, if they are, and you saw them in a technical alpha, you couldn't comment on that either. You're saying either way, you can't say.
You think maybe that's why... maybe that's what Greg's alluding to with these weird rhyming tweets lately?
We'll get into that. But yeah, so Sea of Thieves. Now, Cameron, do you think we're going to see a release date or have a release date announced?
I don't know if we'll see a release date. What I do think is, if one is announced, I don't think it will be this year. I think it will be one of those vague... Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 kind of release dates for maybe 2018.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of get the impression that from what they've publicly shown off that they've barely scratched the surface. It's been a very kind of a slow build toward... Again, I think this goes back to what we were talking about. It seems like Sea of Thieves is a very difficult game to establish to people what it's about. Even the way they presented it at E3, and I mean, I'm telling you what you already know, is so unorthodox compared to just your garden variety game. You can't really point to it and say, oh, this is a fighting game. Pull a couple guys up on stage and have them go at it, or just roll the trailer. People will get it.
No, exactly.
And for that reason, I'm really curious, not just what they show off that's in the game, but how they choose to present it this year.
Right, and that's the whole reason they did the trailer the way they did it last year. They wanted to show people playing the game and interacting, because that is like a big part of the appeal.
Go on.
It's a community. It's a community game. I mean, it's a game that's built on friendships and teamwork, and it's such a. I mean, there's of course shenanigans and chicanery involved. I mean, it's you're pirates, of course, but for me, like it's basically how you want to play it. But the way I like to play it is teaming up with some good friends and taking on the oceans together, and that is I guess it's a hard pitch. And I think what they're doing with the technical alpha, letting more and more people play it, is they're hoping word of mouth builds before
the irony being that they don't want word of mouth right now. But
word of mouth, I mean, besides the fact of the quality of the game, because excitement is growing. You can see that in how many people follow Sea of Thieves on Facebook and Twitter now, how that's constantly growing and building.
I think this is definitely a game that word of mouth is going to be critical in getting people to play this game, and I think it's going to be good.
Yeah. And as far as all of the naysayers on the DK Vine forum who are saying, it's not officially DKU. Why are you saying it's DKU? It's going to be DKU. Shut up. I don't have the patience. It's going to be DKU. It's going to be DKU. Anyway, let's talk about. There are rumors right now, Cameron, and I don't know how much credence I want to give these rumors, but I think it's because Greg Mails was doing these tweets that he's writing rhymes for whatever reason. Of course, people are taking this to mean that Greg Mails is no longer working on Sea of Thieves, but he's working on a new project at Rare. And if he's doing rhymes, why, it must involve Gruntilda. So the possibility that Rare is working on another game that they're going to show off at E3. What do you think about this?
Oh, you don't think he was teasing Blastcore?
Well, okay, here's the thing. Maybe he's like the poem Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, granted, in that case it was the Old English, term rhyme, which is like ice tufts, right? But anyway, I think it's a very clever pun. I think Sea of Thieves is going to have some rhyming in it somewhere.
Yeah, I do think it won't necessarily. I don't think it will necessarily have to do with banjo. Just even though that's the most identifiable rhyme associated element with when you think of Rare. I mean, I'm thinking back to quite some time ago. I think it was Robin Beanland posted a Vine of him having fixed up an old banjo, and that immediately got like dozens of people like posting on social media. What does this mean? Are you composing for Banjo 3E? And I think he fixed up a banjo, and he was really proud of it.
And that's nice. Honestly, we fed into that. I mean, go back. I think.
Oh, we didn't plug Robin's bike ride this time, did we?
Oh yeah. Yeah, Robin's doing a bike ride. Go to Just Giving. What was it? Just Giving.
To further reiterate how much better of a person than us he is.
Yes. So it's justgiving.com. Search for Robin Beanland and give to him for the charity. He's raising money for Special Effect, a group who uses video games and technology to improve the lives of the disabled. and he's going on a 9-day bike trek in September across the entire length of Britain. But yeah, anyway, Robin Beelan fixed up that banjo, and there were a lot of rumors that Rare was going to do a new banjo game, and we believe that. Go back on the Facebook page. There's a video of Chad and I walking to the Galen Center for Microsoft's E3 2015 conference, and we were like, yeah, they're going to be doing a new banjo game. Yeah, definitely.
You sure that's not the heat stroke talking in that video?
No, this was early in the morning. This was pre-heat stroke. So it's cold in the mornings in Los Angeles, or can be cold. But yeah, we fed into that, and this time I'm a lot more skeptical, and I have a feeling there's just going to be rhyming in Sea of Thieves, and whether that, like you said, there's some sort of like nautical creatures who rhyme or something, or it evolves around. Well, I can't really say anything more because that would be talking about the technical alpha.
Though let's entertain the other possibility just because we can. On the opposite end of the spectrum, this is Craig Mayles. He knows we know who he is. He knows how this will be read. He's not without...
Yeah, true.
He's probably not without tact in this scenario.
But would Greg Mayles even want to do another banjo? Like, I don't know. I'm basically just saying wait and see, but I have a hard time believing Greg Mayles is not working on Sea of Thieves till the end, because I feel like Sea of Thieves is like a game that would require Greg Mayles' design input, you know? So
I just kind of look at it and feel like looking at every like pirate reference or archetype or character slipped into pretty much every project Mayles has helmed in his entire career for the past like couple decades. I don't know if he'd want to step away from it.
Right. This is like the boyhood dream.
It's not so much I feel it requires him. It's just, could you really pull yourself away?
I don't think I could. Like, if there was a choice between like working on Sea of Thieves or doing something else, I think I would, stay with Sea of Thieves. With no offense to whatever, if Rare is working on anything else. I'm just, like I said, I'm on the other side of the enthusiasm gap. I'm in the technical alpha. I played the game, so I think Sea of Thieves is a groundbreaking, revolutionary title. So, anyway, we'll be talking quite a bit about Rare in the coming days. So let's talk about somebody we won't be talking much about, and that's Playtonic, because they're not going to be at E3 this year. They've confirmed that. But good for them. They need to take they
have earned a rest.
Year off, I guess. But there is some Yooka-Laylee news that dropped in the last couple of days, and because they timed it to be around the E3 hype machine, we should discuss it, and that is the Yooka-Laylee patch. And it's finally coming, and it is substantial. As we mentioned, Josh Wallen and I mentioned on the last episode, a lot of these are just like little fixes, but they accrue to something much larger, and that is just a much more polished presentation. Cameron, do you have any thoughts about the, as they're calling it, Yooka-Laylee Spit and Polish update?
Yeah, I guess I gotta say, this is a sizable amount of spit and polish. This is a bulldog mouth level spit.
I think my wife would appreciate that reference.
There's like I'm reading through this list, and a lot of it is simply either things that improve the presentation or, like, for lack of better descriptor, like things that make it more accessible. And it's a lot of, like you said, little things, but they add up to it's going to be very interesting to I've finished the game 100%. It's going to be very interesting to go through a second playthrough of this game at some point and just see how much has changed in the experience. I know I had I know I'm going to replay the game at some point, but I wanted to originally hold off until they eventually added the 64-bit mode, because I was really curious how they're going to pull that off.
And I don't believe they mention the 64-bit mode in this, do they?
I don't believe so, and I'm hoping for 64-bit mode that it's... My ideal is that it's not just like a swap out of the character models for something low poly. I don't know how realistic the hope is that they'll redo virtually everything in the game, but that's pie in the sky hope, but that would certainly justify the wait time on it, and I'd be happy to wait that out. I'm really curious to see what they pull off there.
Well, I'm hoping when they add the 64-bit mode, they also add the Yooka-Laylee rap to the actual end of the game, which is not something we've discussed on the Kongversation, I believe, but come to find out, the Yooka-Laylee rap is not actually in Yooka-Laylee, and I think that's just because they didn't finish it in time to actually be in the initial release, because by that point, critics already had review copies. So I would think that eventually in some update they're going to put it in there, because why wouldn't they? But maybe that's coming with the 64-bit mode as well. Let me just read through all of these bullet points real quick, because I think they're all worth mentioning, some more than others. So this is the extent, according to Platonic, of the Yooka-Laylee Spit and Polish update. Brand new pause menu music, which is surprising to me. Okay, sure. New optional camera mode with minimal assist. Pages have added signposts to Ivory Towers to help guide players to new worlds. It's interesting.
And you don't even have to get flogged by Madame Grunty to get it.
Yeah. Design tweaks to all arcade games. Speed improvement to scrolling through totals menu, which is great.
Oh, absolutely.
New option for shorter gibberish voice sound effects. New speech volume option. New ability to speed through dialogue by holding Y.
I feel like I need to give a special mention to this, because this is definitely something I'm happy to see added, because I did sorely miss it in Yooka-Laylee, because I read fairly quickly, but I also like hearing all of the gibberish dialogue run its course.
Yeah.
Which was something great I liked about Banjo-Tooie, that it just kind of sped up the rate of the mumbles, but still let you read the entire line of dialogue while they played.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see that kind of come back now.
Yeah, especially when you have to, restart things, and you have to talk to a character again and again and again. It'll be nice just to speed through that. Cutscenes can now be skipped with Y. New moves section added to pause menu with image guide. Thank God. That was one of my biggest complaints, I think, or one of the things I realized I had a complaint about, because as I did mention last time, I would just forget how to do certain moves, and I'd have to look it up online if I couldn't find Trouser. Camera design improvements throughout game. Less scripted cameras. Door cams now appear behind player, etc. That's good. That's a good tweak.
Yeah. I'm in favor of giving you the ability to have a free camera anywhere in this game, just because of how well they've littered the world with stuff to look at. I just want to gawk. Let me gawk.
Exactly. Restart option added in the pause menu during arcade games and Kartos challenges. Woo!
Critical.
Yeah! That is the thing I need the most, because I know when I botched a Kartos challenge or a Rextro arcade game, and I just want to start again. Don't make me just go through the whole...
Yeah.
Kartos karting is 5 minutes long. Come on.
There's always these points in Rextro's games where if you screw up at a certain point, or you screw up a number of times, you're not going to get the optimal score or the optimal time. So, yeah, put that in. don't have to reload the room. This is a really good change.
Mm-hmm. Sonarable objects now have more clear visual identity. So it's something I think is beneficial. Laser move no longer requires players to crouch. Minecart control improvements and new visual effects. I am very receptive towards that as well.
I'm intrigued as to what the visual effects are.
Yeah. As somebody who has some qualms about the card toss challenges in later worlds. Transformation control improvements. I'm looking at you, Snowplow. I'm looking at you.
When we watched the trailers with that Snowplow, when they first unveiled it, I remember looking at that and I was thinking in the back of my mind, is this going to overtake the van from Banjo-Tooie as my favorite transformation? And no, not even close.
Improved first-person aiming controls. New first-person aiming control options added. Improved flying controls,
Ooh.
Thankfully. When transformed, collecting butterflies now restores energy. I hadn't even considered that they don't. Oh, wow. Okay. Hunter Tonic now tracks the last 30 quills and casino tokens, in addition to the health and power extenders. It will also whistle at the location of the closest rare collectible.
Yeah.
Health... Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just thinking to myself, that's definitely a change I'd have been receptive to with some of these collectibles.
Yeah. Health UI is now always visible when low. Yeah, that's something I was actually surprised about, that the health would vanish even if you only have one or two butterflies left. Because that is not something... I mean, the way it used to be done, in Banjo games is... You would know when you have low honeycomb because it would impede on the screen. So I was kind of surprised to see that wasn't there from the beginning. It seemed like I understand, the rare design mentality is to keep the screen clear of clutter whenever possible, but I think that's a good change.
Yeah, I think I did run into a couple surprise deaths where I didn't realize I was quite so low on health. Mm-hmm. So this is another change I'm receptive to.
Same here, yeah. Design tweaks in various areas, and they have in parentheses Black Hole in 1 and Gloomy Gem Grotto, etc. Okay, I had no problem with Gloomy Gem Grotto. I know a lot of people did, but
I didn't. It. But that's because I didn't find that area until after I had the flight ability. So,
okay.
So the entire thing was just this exercise in breaking what the game had, the path that the game had laid out for me, and just kind of going neener at it. So
that's how you found the pirate treasure so readily there, I guess.
Yes.
New icons added for keyboard mouse controls. I haven't played it on a PC yet, but okay. Improved Rampo boss fight. I'm a little worried about that because I did not have a problem with the Rampo boss fight. I know a lot of people did, but I think that's just because they didn't really grasp the controls at that point in time of the game.
I'm just very curious what the definition of improved is here.
Yeah. I mean, I hope they don't change it too much because I actually really enjoy the Rampo boss fight. I think it's just the right amount of challenge. But I don't think it's unfair at all. But okay.
He wasn't one of my favorites, but I'm just curious what improved means. Is it more lenient? Does he have different attack patterns?
Yeah.
Does the camera shift a little bit so you can see up the ramp a little bit more, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Just very intrigued by this.
As somebody who likes Rampo just the way he is, I have to say, baby, you don't gotta change. Added PC display settings to the in-game pause menu. Performance improvements and audio improvements. So, yeah, that's a pretty big update. And since the 64-bit mode isn't in there, we can expect another major patch after that. So, exciting. I'm glad Playtonics is finally addressing this, and I hope maybe some people who were dismissive of Yooka-Laylee, some critics will give it another shot, or at least reevaluate their original reviews.
See, I thought they already made an audio improvement when they... let's move on.
And they also just basically said, hey, it's still coming on the Switch. Here's a screenshot of it on the Switch control. We promise.
It's a fake leak. You can see the Photoshop. I mean, why would you take it off screen like that?
Yeah. But they've got to still reassure. I mean, so many people are waiting for Yooka-Laylee on the Switch. It's fascinating that all of the supposed performance issues that kept people from enjoying Yooka-Laylee on initial release might not ever be experienced by the people who were looking forward to Yooka-Laylee perhaps the most, and that is lapsed Rare fans who never made the jump to Microsoft and are Nintendo loyalists. So, who's to say what Yooka-Laylee's final perception in the gaming mind sphere will be? But I think these improvements are fantastic. So I look forward to experiencing everything I've already played yet again.
Yeah, just well done. This is substantial.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of Nintendo, let's talk Nintendo at E3 real quick. And I say real quick because I don't think there's a lot we have to talk about. We don't know if there's going to be any relevant Donkey Kong games or news during E3, but there is a lot of things we are watching for, and I think the biggest one, as far as I'm concerned, is Retro's new game. Now, we know the Nintendo... They don't call it a Nintendo Direct. I don't even know what they call it, but the Nintendo digital presentation for E3, it's going to be Tuesday morning or Tuesday at noon Eastern time. And it's going to only be 30 minutes long. And I still can't recall how that compares to past E3s, but it seems pretty substantially short. And we know the only thing they're going to show off there is Super Mario Odyssey, which we'll touch upon in a second. But Retro's game that they've been working on since post-Tropical Freeze. I don't know if it's the Can You Dig It game that they vaguely tweeted about some time ago at this point. But do you think we'll see Retro's game at E3?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I'd kind of hope to see it. I do think it's kind of conspicuous that we've had this radio silence on them for quite some time now. And I think everybody's kind of champing at the bit to know what they're doing.
First of all, Cameron, thank you for saying champing and not chomping. I agree, and it's weird because Retro has almost zero social media presence, and compared to Rare and Playtonic, Retro is kind of this closed off environment that we only occasionally get glimpses of, but they really are under the oppressive secrecy that is Nintendo. So yeah, it feels like after the hype for Tropical Freeze subsided, Retro just kind of vanished, and besides the occasional weird sighting like a Sasquatch or UFO glimpse, they've been virtually off the grid. So I thought for sure we would see Retro's new game this E3, but there just seems to be no anticipation or hype for it. It's weird. So I can't imagine they would sit out another E3 and we'd have to wait till E3 2018 to hear what Retro's been working on, because that will be 5 years since their last game was announced, which, okay, I mean, hopefully not, but I really don't know if we're going to see it or not. I feel like I have a good a good taste for this kind of thing. I have a good gut feeling about this kind of stuff. I don't know. Nintendo's so hard to read at the moment. So your guess is as good as mine. But I will say, I do not believe it's going to be a Donkey Kong game. I do not believe it's going to be a Metroid game. I believe it's going to be a new IP. And we're still going to be very interested in checking it out. But I don't think it's going to be DKU. So
yeah, I kind of have the same gut feeling as well. Something about this much of a gap leads me to think it's not an established franchise that we've seen before.
Right. But that being said, who knows? They've multitasked before. They part of their team worked on Mario Kart 7, and who's to say if somebody else is doing a Donkey Kong game, maybe Retro could be helping them with it. I don't really know. So there's always hope. There's always that's the optimist in me, Cameron. That is the person who is no longer a cynic, trying to keep the spirits lifted. The game we do know Nintendo is going to be showing off a great deal is Super Mario Odyssey, and normally this wouldn't mean much for DK Vine, but of course we've got New Donk City to consider. Cameron, do you think Donkey Kong or any of his friends will actually make a physical appearance in New Donk City?
I don't know, and it's one of those situations where, given that it's a Mario game, I'm not sure if I would want it, because
yes.
When Donkey Kong tends to show up in games that Mario is headlining, that aren't spin-off games, it tends to be in a villainous capacity. I mean, I would love to be proven wrong. I would love, say, like, a jokey scenario where, like, Donkey Kong has suddenly been made the mayor of this city and is naming every street after people he knows.
I would be okay with that, because it would preserve Big Ape City in the canon, I'm kind of nervous. I mean, I will accept whatever comes to pass, and I will work to rationalize it with the pre-existing canon of Big Ape City, as established by not just Rare, but Donkey Kong 94. But I don't know if I want Donkey Kong in this or not. It's weird. I'm trying not to get emotionally attached either way, just because whatever happens, and we will roll with it. But all eyes will be on Super Mario Odyssey. For once, from DK Vine, we have to concern ourselves with a mainline Mario platformer, and we've never had to do that before. So,
and granted, while I do have concerns of the whole will Donkey Kong appear or not, for now I am content to sit back and love the street names and things we've seen and hope for more of that.
And that, if DK appears in it, the street names and all the country references make me hopeful that he won't be a villain, because it's kind of hard to even reference Donkey Kong Country elements and have him be a villain. And there's a reason perhaps Mario versus Donkey Kong never brings Donkey Kong Country anything into the series. It's just Donkey Kong in a Mario game. And that's because
it raises questions of moral ambiguity that I don't think are prepared to be answered.
As you point out, Cameron, once you bring Diddy Kong into any scenario involving Donkey Kong has to be a hero, because he cannot be a villain with Diddy.
Right. He has to be somebody that Diddy can look up to, because that is Diddy's character.
Yes. So, yeah, Super Mario Odyssey. Weird that we have to concern ourselves about this, but that is the state of the world we live in 2017. Thank you, Donald Trump. Now, let's just talk about the two possibilities that we probably won't see anything, but tradition dictates.
Don't be cynical.
Don't be cynical, so we're going to see them for sure. Donkey Kong Country Baja Blast, or some Donkey Kong platformer, and Kevin Callahan's choice, Diddy Kong Racing, for the Switch. what can we say? It's doubtful we're going to see a Donkey Kong game at E3 2017. I just don't feel like it's in the cards. I feel like we probably will have a Donkey Kong game for the Switch, but much like every other Donkey Kong game release sans for the Wii U, it's going to be later in the system's life.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit, at least from the perspective of people who aren't us, I realize it's been quite a few years since Tropical Freeze, but it still does feel, at least in the console's lifespan, a little bit too soon. And on that note, I think I'd be totally open to seeing a Tropical Freeze port for the Switch.
You know, normally I wouldn't be okay with that, but whatever gets people to play Tropical Freeze, because it's one of these games that now that the anger that there is no Metroid game has subsided, people are rediscovering Tropical Freeze, and it's kind of okay to say, hey, that was actually a brilliant game. So to actually put it on a system that people own, yeah, absolutely. Let's see an enhanced port. We had Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, and I love that. So why shouldn't I be okay with Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze Switch, you know? It would get me to buy a Switch. Absolutely. So maybe that would be the best case scenario, Cameron. And we also had Jungle Beat new play control for the Wii, so there is precedent for having the previous console's Donkey Kong game get retweaked for the new console early in the life, and then getting a new Donkey Kong game later in the console's lifespan. So, yeah, I all of a sudden want to see Tropical Freeze for the Switch, and I will be disappointed if I don't. So thank you for raising expectations, Cameron. And I blame you, too, for the crushing disappointment that awaits.
Just be on the lookout for Metroid Pitch Black.
Donkey Kong, I get that reference, by the way. I laughed, and I was like, this is funny, but I don't know why. But it's tickling my funny bone. And then I realized that would be, a great name for the next hypothetical Metroid game. If we're going with the Mountain Dew naming convention.
There's people who probably got that, and the other bit of the audience is wondering, what does Vin Diesel have to do with the Metroid?
Right. Finally, there is some Donkey Kong news to discuss that's not really related to E3, but it's dropped at E3 time. So when in Rome, or rather when in Universal Studios, let's talk about what's being called Donkey Kong Minecart Coaster, which I don't think is the official name, but it is the working title as far as Attractions Magazine goes. Now, Attractions Magazine is a theme park magazine and entertainment conglomerate. A friend of DK Vine and former Elvis from our Emmy Award-winning show Elvis and Slick Monty, Banks Lee, works for Attractions Magazine. He did not do this article. Somebody else did, but it just shows the weird insular world that we travel in. They have an update on the Super Nintendo World that's going to be at Universal Studios Japan, Universal Studios Orlando, and Universal Studios Hollywood. And they just broke ground on it in Japan. And so rumors are starting to trickle out. We already knew about the Donkey Kong minecart ride that was rumored. We didn't know if it was related to Donkey Kong, really. We just saw the blueprints, and we thought, hey, this is a minecart ride. Well, here is the rumor according to Attractions Magazine, and I'm just going to quote this verbatim. The next ride, Donkey Kong, will transport guests to Donkey Kong Island from the moment they step into the themed space through a warp pipe naturally. The attraction will be inside a show building with the remnants of a temple as a facade surrounded by tropical set pieces. The ride system is rumored to be a roller coaster that's disguised inside a rickety wooden mine track. It'll have a launch element with a scene that I've been told is not unlike Escape from Gringotts in Diagon Alley. Is that a Harry Potter?
Yes, it's a Harry Potter reference.
Okay. See, I'm up on what the kids are talking about. I may not know what Courage the Cowardly Dog is, but I know a Harry Potter reference when I see it. And we'll take guests through twists and falls, as well as outside the show building. The Kong family and creatures from the game will be seen in the ride, with a mixture of screens and animatronics. Based on several sources, the intensity of the coaster will be comparable to Escape from Gringotts and Revenge of the Mummy. Okay.
Wow. Yeah, do you want to dissect this point for point? Because that is a lot to take in.
This sounds like something like they would have had to have come to DK Vine and get approval on all these points. Like, does this meet your needs? How would you want us to change this to better serve your ridiculous fan community?
They put in the warp pipe. That's
the warp pipe from the Mushroom Kingdom to Donkey Kong Island. The warp pipe, I've said, connects the two but keeps them separate. It's going to take us to Donkey Kong Island from the Mushroom Kingdom themed sections of the park. What the hell? I mean, good lord. The fact that it seems to take place in a temple, I'm sensing it's going to be based more on the Returns aesthetic versus the original Donkey Kong Country. So I don't think these are going to be Kremlin temples, but
I assume there's a certain level of doom within these, and that'll be enough.
Yeah. The Kong family and creatures from the game, which I think may be a reference to Animal Buddies, will appear as animatronics and on screens within the ride itself. That is like, even when we were talking about the possibility that this was going to be a Donkey Kong ride, I didn't want to like get my hopes up that we would have like animatronics or like actual appearances from the Kong characters. But I knew this was probably going to be an indoor ride just based on the description. And I knew because of that, we would have a whole bevy of DK-themed elements in there because of the confined location. So, I mean, oh my God. I mean, can you imagine like a Cranky Kong animatronic or Rambi, or maybe like a Panting Rambi animatronic, or maybe Rambi appears on one of these screens and runs across the minecart track?
This is a lot to take in. I mean, I'm kind of, when we first heard rumors about this, like even at my most optimistic, I expected presentation, ironically, on the level of like the rides in the Nintendo Land game.
By the way, your dog sounds very excited about this as well.
Yeah, I'm. We're gonna have to edit him out of this.
Oh no! I'll give him
Jessie.
a special. I'll give him a special guest spot.
He's cranky and wants to sleep, and he's annoyed that I'm talking.
I'm cranky and I want to sleep too, Cameron. It's okay. Anyway, yeah, this is exciting news, and it should be a boost to the spirits of all Donkey Kong fans, even if we don't get anything at E3.
Whenever I read this blurb, I swear it seems like the kind of thing like this would be what I read immediately before realizing I'm dreaming and wake up.
Exactly. Yeah, it feels like an awesome dream, and I wake up and I'm so disappointed that my dreams don't match reality. And for all I know, I'm so exhausted. I might have my body shut down earlier today, and I took a 2-hour power nap. And for all I know, I'm still dreaming, and I'm gonna wake up and it's 11 p.m. and I completely missed the live stream, and this never happened. But for now, in this blissful moment of ignorance, this is pretty sweet, and this is more reverence than our series has been paid in years. So this is great news for Donkey Kong fans, and it will boost Donkey Kong's profile too, because people around the world will be coming to these parks, and they're going to be experiencing Donkey Kong Country. That's fantastic. All right, well, let's take a few calls, and we will wrap this episode up and I guess start packing. So let's hear what our listeners have to say about E3 2017.
Hey, I'm DKBK362. I was just laughing at Hyle's voice for the DK Vine hotline. Anyway, I think that Nintendo will announce that they've bought back Rare, and also they're going to announce the Nintendo 4DS, and they will announce Banjo 4D, as well as Super Smash Bros. 5 Nintendo Switch and Super Smash Bros. 5 3DS. Sorry, 5 Nintendo 3DS. And that's the full name, just like Super Mario Maker for 3DS and Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS. And also, Hyle, I'm the one on Xbox who, sent you that message saying, hey, voice cracks, everyone laughs. Yeah, you get the gist. Alright, is there anything else? I don't think so. Need to think of something witty to say. God damn it! Fuck. I'd lick Grant Kirkhope's anus. Thanks, bye.
Well, I think we would all like Grant Kirkhope's anus. So thank you for the call, DKBK. And I can say that because he doesn't follow us on Twitter. He's blocked us, so he'll never know. So anyway, yeah, thank you for the call. I don't think any of those predictions are going to come true because they're all far-fetched and nonsensical. But I appreciate you thinking outside the box. Literally, in the case of Nintendo buying back Rare, they would be outside of the box in that case. But honestly, I'm past the point where I would ever want to see. I would be okay with Rare and Microsoft working with Nintendo, but I think Rare's in a good spot where they're at now, and I think Sea of Thieves is going to change a lot of people's minds who still pine for Rare to go back with Nintendo. You know, I feel like it's because Rare has. I mean, there's a lot of circumstances involved during the buyout era. Rare released some great games, and then they were put on a leash, but that's a lot of different elements going on, and I feel like people need to get over this this stigma of Rare being owned by Microsoft. Microsoft are not the bad guys, especially not anymore. I mean, Phil Spencer, and they have so much freedom, and it's really just like a blissful union right now. So
there's definitely a sense of stability now that I think there wasn't for a long while. So
yeah,
the argument seems increasingly irrelevant. I mean, granted, yeah, I do think of what might have been, but I'm at a place where I'm kind of at peace with it now, instead of holding on to the idea of turning the ship around. Which I guess in this alternate reality there wouldn't be a ship. So.
Yeah. Really, any reality doesn't give me Sea of Thieves is not a reality I care to live in. And yeah, that includes Donkey Kong Racing. Like, as much as Donkey Kong Racing is this great, like, the game that we pine for more than any other, Sea of Thieves is so good. It more than makes up for not having Donkey Kong Racing at this point. So, thank you for the call, though. And thank you for horrifying Grant Kirkhope with that statement, should he ever hear it. Let's hear what the next caller will horrify us with.
Hey, it's Karate Joe, and I heard you're doing an E3 predictions episode, so I decided to throw my predictions out there. Mostly going to focus on Nintendo because I don't know a thing about Microsoft. Although I hope they announce Banjo. You know, that could happen. We literally don't know. So for Nintendo, I do think, and I'm pretty 50% confident about this, that Retro Studios is going to announce their new game, just because it's been a similar length of time that they've announced games. For example, between Prime 3 and Returns, I think there was 3 E3s without Retro, and it's been the same case here. Or has it? 15, no. Yes, it's been the same case here. So I think that's going to be the case. Also, they usually announce games the year of their intended release. Or at least they have the past 2 times. So I could see it, if not being a 2017 title, maybe early 2018. What is it? I don't know. Donkey Kong. It's Donkey Kong. That's my prediction. Next prediction is Super Mario Odyssey. I think that's going to have no other Donkey Kong stuff in it. But that's okay because it looks great. And you should be excited for it. It looks like Super Mario 64. It looks like Super Mario 64, and I think that's a great thing. I like Super Mario 64. I like Banjo. They're similar. Alright? Get the game. And it says Espresso on a sign. That's great. It says K. Rool on a sign. Oh my god. It's greater. What else could Nintendo do? They're probably going to show off more ARMS, which I'm fine with. Maybe Lanky Kong will be announced. We don't know. Splatoon 2 could have a Donkey Kong stage in it. Again, something that might literally possibly could happen. Yeah, Nintendo. Zelda's DLC will be announced. It'll be the Donkey Kong Island expansion. And you can free roam, explore Donkey Kong Island. You can climb his nostril and enter it to find a shrine hidden within. Yeah, that's probably all Nintendo is going to show. And by probably, I mean will. So, I hope you're looking forward to it. I mean, that's pretty packed. Bye!
All right, well, thank you for the call, Karate Joe. And yeah, I don't know about you, Cameron, but I'm looking forward to Super Mario Odyssey kind of regardless of whether or not we have to cover it as a site and consider it part of the Donkey Kong universe, because it does look like the best 3D Mario platformer, I mean, maybe ever. It's kind of what I've wanted to see from Mario, and it looks like it's trying new things, which is very exciting. It's not stuck in the same rote. This is the way we do Mario games, and let's churn them out. And granted, I mean, 3D Mario has never really gotten in the same rut that 2D Mario has gotten into, but this is still, I mean, the biggest leap forward, since, I mean, Sunshine did a lot of different stuff, but I would say this is like the biggest leap forward as far as how we visually process Mario's world since Super Mario 64.
What really strikes me about Odyssey is, and I don't think I can say this for many Mario games in quite some time, is I feel like I'm intrigued and excited for this game regardless of the fact that it's a Mario game. Like, if you put any random character in this, I think I would still be pretty intrigued by what we've seen so far.
It does not look like a glorified tech demo, so that's a plus in its column right there. He also mentioned ARMS, and I want to address this real quick. We've kind of prodded this on social media just a bit, or I have, that Lanky Kong should be ARMS, as suggested by our listeners. And Nintendo has announced, independent of that they don't plan to put that there are no Nintendo characters in ARMS. Like, no other Nintendo characters besides the new ones from ARMS in ARMS. So the dream is probably dead for Lanky Kong in ARMS. which it's a shame because it would have been nice, just like Donkey Kong being in Punch-Out was a nice surprise at a time when we didn't expect it. But I'm really not looking forward to ARMS otherwise. Like, it's just one of those things where I have no interest in it at the time being. Maybe when I have a Switch, it'll be one of those games I'll just check out, but I'm
kind of in the same boat. I like the character designs they've come out with. I think they're interesting and clever. The gameplay footage itself hasn't, to repeat a joke I've harped on, ARMS hasn't grabbed me.
Well, that would be Hands. The game was Hands.
Yeah.
Hands.
But I think part of it is just I don't have the Switch yet, and it's probably going to be some time before I can get my arms around a Switch. So I think I'm kind of at the point where I'm mentally rationalizing everything I'm missing out on. So we'll wait and see. I think I might be into it. Just give me some time.
Yeah, it's just one of those games where it's not attached to any property that I'm a fan of. It's a new IP, and it's just, I don't know. I've got too much going on in my life to really have time for ARMS right now. Which is a weird statement to make out of context. Thank you for the call, Karate Joe. Let's hear what the next person wants to grab. If they're famous, they let you do it.
I think I'm supposed to talk now. Okay, so I just called in like an hour ago, maybe. And, you know, I've just been stricken with a bolt of optimism. I believe that there will be a new Donkey Kong Country shown at E3 2017. And why wouldn't there be? You know, it's been, 3 years since the last Donkey Kong Country game? And it sold like over 1 million copies on a console that nobody fucking bought. And DKC Returns sold like a shit ton, right? And also, Lollycong brought up an okay point. They're building this, like, they're going all out with this DK attraction at the Super Nintendo World, or whatever, for Universal. Why? I mean, DK is like a flagship of Nintendo, but still, it might be indicative of a new Donkey Kong game. And, yeah, that's basically it. Baja Blast for the win, bitch.
Thank you for calling back, and, you know, I can see your point of view. It is easy to get excited now with the theme park reveal, or at the very least the rumors that if Nintendo is investing this much in Donkey Kong, well, Nintendo and Universal, then surely we're going to get another Donkey Kong Country game sooner rather than later, and why not this year? I admire that optimism, and it does make me feel more confident about Donkey Kong's place in Nintendo's hierarchy. It's not like the fact that there is this attraction at Universal Studios, or will be this attraction at Universal Studios, it definitely gives Donkey Kong more stability than, say, F-Zero has. And I think that was my biggest fear over this last couple of years, was Donkey Kong was kind of being put out the pasture with all these other Nintendo IPs that are only ever referenced in like other like game series, but basically anything that isn't Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, or Fire Emblem at this point, or Splatoon. So the fact that DK has this shrine built to it, hopefully in all 3 Universal Studios locations, I think says a lot as far as the long-term strength of the series and the fact that it will stick around. It's not going to be put on a shelf like these other lapsed series.
Speaking of shelves, you know what this ride means, right, Hyle?
What does that mean?
Gift shops.
Yeah, I know. Gift shop merchandise that's marked up beyond what it's worth, and we're gonna go bankrupt at this gift shop.
Hey, if they find out we plan to come to Universal, maybe they'll just have a bet. Let's see how much these guys will pay for a plush King K. Rool.
What I want is the "I Survived Donkey Kong Country" T-shirt or whatever. At like roller coasters, like they'll have the like "I survived the blah blank at blank park." So I would wear with pride that T-shirt. So yeah, like I said, this is good news for Donkey Kong fans when we need it, going into E3 where we're not really anticipating too much, because it helps put things into perspective for us. So I'm very glad this rumor broke when it did. So ironically, right as they were breaking ground at Universal Studios Japan. All right, one last call, and then Cameron and I really have to skedaddle. That's right, skedaddle. Because we have way too much work ahead of us.
Look what you people are doing to me.
Hello, DK Vine. This is Malik calling in once again, and I'm here to give you my quick impromptu predictions on E3 2017. So, for terms of Donkey Kong, I don't think we're really going to see much. Maybe we'll see DK and Diddy in a cameo game, and that's pretty much the extent of what we're going to see out of the Kongs. And it was funny. I had a prediction. I had a dream. I had a dream once that, what was it? What was that dream? Oh, yeah, that something leaked online for, like, a realistic jungle-looking setting for a new Donkey Kong game. But then I woke up and I was really sad. But then that got me thinking to what Retro is working on. Now, remember that tweet they did, like, a few months back where they showed some, like, prime rib or some kind of meat or something? I bet you that we're going to see what Retro's been working on, or, just as likely, we won't see what Retro's been working on. So, yeah, those are my predictions, and what do you guys think? Do you think I'd be on the ball with those predictions or not? Let me know, and I will talk to you guys next time. Later.
Malik, thanks for calling. Yeah, I guess Retro did have that other tweet about, like, barbecue or something, like, so maybe they're doing some sort of like Guy for Ferrari game where his frosted tips go on an adventure like independent from his scalp. I really don't know what the barbecue tweet implied.
Do you think maybe Retro just has this account? Has this like abandoned account and somebody just accidentally logs into it every now and then instead of their personal account?
Or maybe something far darker, maybe the entire staff at Retro has been murdered and their flesh cooked over a grill, and that was the killer tweeting his crime. And that's why we haven't heard anything from them for so long.
See, you got to make statements, Retro. This is what happens. We worry.
Right. So, just really, at this point, I'm just going to assume if, like, Michael Kelbau appears at E3, it's actually going to be the killer wearing his skin suit. So,
Mike, blink twice if something is wrong. Okay?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, that's just going to be my headcanon from here on out. Michael Kelbau is just a killer with wearing a Michael Kelbau skin suit. And then there's also Malik raised the possibility of cameo games. I don't know. Like, do you think we'll see any new cameo games? Considering like we got a new Mario Kart game that was just the old Mario Kart game, and yet that was somehow a big deal. I still don't understand how Mario Kart 8 Deluxe like not pulled the wool over people's eyes, but why that was such like a huge thing when it was released. It was the same fucking game, and a lot of people bought Mario Kart 8 for the Wii U. So.
Yeah, but a lot of people didn't buy the Wii U. So I think that's part of it. A lot of people sort of missed the boat, and others were just excited to come back. In regards to other Mario games, I feel like it may be kind of oversaturating at this point to reveal another one, especially because we know that one of their reveals coming up is the Mario Rabbids crossover, which I think it's kind of ambiguous if Donkey Kong will be in that. We've seen artwork of a Rabbid wearing Donkey Kong's tie, but we don't know how that'll go at this point.
Oh God, I forgot all about that, Cameron. But Grant Kirkhope might be doing the music to that too.
Oh yeah, if that rumor holds any water, I'm very interested to hear how that sounds. I'm really looking forward to hearing a Rare composer take on Mario.
And while they have him, they might as well just record some new audio clips of Donkey Kong as well, you know. Get us away from the Scooby-Doo voice, or at least take a break from it from time to time.
I can speak in full sentences now.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.